Hello and welcome. Now this isn't a video where you're going to see buses being driven under low bridges. There's plenty of videos like that on YouTube where you see the poor old Bristol VR get beheaded at Luton. In this video I will be talking about the difference between low height and low bridge buses. Sometimes, and it's a mistake I've made myself in my younger days, I've referred to a low height bus as a low bridge bus, and that isn't totally accurate. So why do we need buses at different heights? Well, that's to do with overhead obstructions, obviously. In the UK, our safe minimum working height is 16 feet, or 4.877 metres if you prefer it in new money. Basically, any overhead obstruction over that height doesn't need to be plated. That's why you don't see height restrictions on motorway flyovers and gantries, because they're all 16 feet or over. Anything under that 16-foot height needs to be plated to tell drivers what the safe minimum clearance is. In Europe, that clearance is even lower and is worked out around the 4 metre mark, which turns out to be around 13 foot 1.48 inches if you're going to be precise. This is why many old buses, when they get exported out to Europe, they have the roofs lowered or flattened so they can safely operate within that safe minimum height. Similar height restrictions are also in place in certain parts of the United States of America. In the early days, buses and trucks used very similar, if not identical, chassis. And these chassis were very basic and very high framed as well, which meant the clearance between the ground and the bottom of the chassis was quite high up. This fashion carried on into the bus design in the 1920s, where you came off the platform and took a step up into the lower saloon and had a standard rear axle. Now, by saying standard, I mean one that goes straight across as opposed to a drop centre rear axle. Now, this was fine unless you wanted a bus of a certain lower height. You may have routes that require the capacity of a double-decker, but somewhere along the route there is an obstruction which won't allow your 14-foot 6 bus to pass. So what to do? Well, in the old days the answer was simple. The lower deck saloon would stay exactly the same as it would on a conventional 14-foot 6 bus, including normally a step up into the saloon, which seems ludicrous really when you're trying to make a bus lower and you come off the platform and step up into the downstairs part of the bus. Upstairs, however, it was a totally different layout. There was normally an offside gangway with 4 abreast seating on the near side of the bus. Now, this was far from ideal, especially in the days when the poor conductor had to reach across 3 other people to take your fare, and also everybody upstairs was smoking woodbines. Downstairs too, the sunken lower deck gangway on the offside intruded into the lower deck ceiling, and it became a bit of a head basher. However, as an operator, you now had a bus that was around 13-foot 6, and this was known as the Lowbridge design. In the early 1950s, Bristol came up with the revolutionary Bristol Low-Decker, and I have produced a video about the Bristol Low-Decker, and I will put a link up to it on the top right hand corner next to my channel icon. Basically though, the Low-Decker had a slightly lower chassis, an off-centered propeller shaft and a drop center rear axle, and could accommodate a lower downstairs gangway. As a result of this, the upper deck was also lower, and you could fit a conventional centre gangway with seating either side of it as on a normal double-decker bus. So you had the layout of a conventional 14-foot 6 bus in the size of a 13-foot 6 bus. It was all very clever, and this is now what we refer to as low height buses. This design found itself used on various other buses, including the Daimler Fleet Line and the Bristol VR. But strangely, originally not the Leyland Atlantean. That had to make do with a semi-low bridge design on the early buses, with conventional seating at the front and the side gangway at the rear on the upper deck. Again, certainly not ideal. Nowadays we take this, what was a revolutionary design, for granted, and most buses, including the one that I drive for work, are around 13 foot 10. Some operators though still continue to specify full height buses at 14 foot 6, as this gives better headroom in the upper deck and the lower deck, especially in the days of the post-Dr. Beeching railway cuts, where a lot of the railway bridges across the country were taken down. Well, I hope you found this short video informative and interesting. If you did, please like and share it, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss my future releases. And talking of which, why don't you pay a visit to the older videos on my channel, have a look through my back catalogue, so to speak. There's something to please the bus enthusiast of good taste like yourselves. But thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.